Welcome to the Create and Grow podcast, kind of like the welcome to the launch of the Lyrics and Leadership Institute. We are so honored and proud to bring this work to you. We believe that it will be life changing. It will help move the conversation forward of the importance of lifelong learning, the importance of neural activation while you're learning about things you care about, learning about things that you're connecting with, and growing your brain, learning about your brain during the learning, and of course, learning with the music and the artists that you know and love. I am Janine, your host, your keynote speaker on neurosomatic creativity, intercultural creativity, prismatic leadership, and the co-director of Lyrics and Leadership. I co-direct with Keely, and she is amazing, an amazing artist, producer, a dancer, choreographer, leadership trainer, and such. So we are coming at you today talking about the launch. We are building a community of people who love to learn, who want to push off dementia and cognitive decline for as long as possible, and just who want to grow in their leadership skills, their human connectability skills, their social skills, and their creative thinking skills, right? Think metaphorically, symbolically, make unusual connections, and be innovative in whatever type of work that they choose to do so. So we're going to be talking about that, but it's May, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's also my birthday month, but it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm very much aware of my mental health, especially during my birthday month. But I want to always be educating you, and we're going to be talking about neurological issues that some people may be facing. We're going to be talking about a particular one, epilepsy. And I was honored to be on the OneNeurology Podcast. It's a global podcast, and it is just really giving people the stories, the information about eradicating stigma around neurological diseases. It's very prevalent. About 1 in 3 people will be faced with some type of neurological disease, whether it be dementia or certain types of dementia, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, frontal lobe dementias. Also epilepsy, also stroke. I sat in a lecture about how stroke those numbers are climbing, and it's not just a particular group of people that you think may be having strokes. It's actually a lot of young people are having strokes, and those numbers are going up. And they're talking about educating people on the importance of looking at the signs, those earlier signs. And so OneNeurology Talks, the podcast that I was on, talks about eradicating stigma, making sure people are aware of this, making sure if you or someone you know or love or you work with are dealing with any of these neurological diseases or issues, that it is you have the information that you know. And that's really what I wanted to use my platform for as well. And so if you have any questions, if you want to share anything, please add it in the comments. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is the workforce is changing. AI is not coming, it's here. And I just saw, videos produced by AI look totally real. And of course, AI can be used for good to help us be more creative. AI can help us get things done that we don't need to do, and we can focus more on the high level creativity thinking work. But AI can be used for bad, right? And I actually had a friend of mine, someone use AI to pretend to be her daughter and to swindle her out of money, pretending that her daughter needed money, and it was just someone using AI. So it, like money, it's nebulous. It can go either way, right? And so we have to get a hold on that ethically, and make sure that we understand what it is doing to our workforce. And with that, we have to make sure this organ is in tip-top shape. This is your brain. You should have one if you are watching this video. I have two, this one and one in here. And brain optimization is key. That's really what our Lyrics and Leadership Institute, our school, our community that we're forming, is to get people who want to optimize their brain in fun and active ways. And so what we're talking about is the importance of the workforce is changing. People have to think more creatively. They have to be able to have that courage and understand the neurological strategies to think at a higher creative level, and to be able to execute as well. There's a lot of people who have great ideas and they don't get anything done. So we don't want that either. So how do we really refine our ideas, really work well with one another, from different lived backgrounds, to think more creatively together? And then how do we execute, right? Everything you see here, all of my books that I'll be talking about, um, all of these, and just the different programs that I have, and the different trainings that I do, all that came from in here. These are creative projects that I thought about, and then of course worked with other people to execute. So how can we do that? All right, so let's get to our topic today. We are talking about mental health, and more focusedly on epilepsy. And there are just a lot of people who are dealing with this neurological issue, of who you may not know. You may not have anyone in your personal life with that. And so I just wanted to use my platform to share stories, and to show that we are all walking around with beautiful brains, and our brains just are all different, and that we have to make sure that we know each other's stories. And so I met a beautiful woman named Ameena Aimen, and she is in Pakistan, and she was on the podcast with me for the OneNeurology Podcast. And so we connected, and I wanted to get her story and share her story. So about 3 million adults in the United States of America live with epilepsy. And one of our featured artists for our Lyrics and Leadership Institute, Prince, you may know him. He plays the guitar, among several other instruments, and he had epilepsy. So let's listen about from Prince, and to see what his story was.
Spoken about this before, but I was born epileptic, and I used to have seizures when I was young, and my mother and father didn't know what to do or how to handle it, but they did the best they could with what little they had. And my mother told me one day, I walked into her and said, Mom, I'm not going to be sick anymore. And she said, why? And I said, because an angel told me so. Now, I don't remember saying it. That's just what she told me. And from that point on, I've been having to deal with a lot of things, getting teased a lot in school. And, early in my career, I tried to compensate for that by being as flashy as I could and as noisy as I could. And, I just looked forward to this time in my life when I could reflect back on it and talk to people like yourself.
All right. So that's him sharing for the first time at that time with Tavis Smiley about his journey with epilepsy. And about 470,000 children in the United States of America have epilepsy. Some people, they either grow out of it, or I don't know if that's a term to use, but it ceases for them when they enter into adulthood, as it did for Prince. And some people live with it throughout their entire life. And so just to make sure that you're aware that 65 million people deal with epilepsy. So I wanted to first talk to Miss Ameena about several things. And I don't have the video of her speaking. I just have her audio, because she was in Pakistan. And so it's the best connection with just her audio. And she talked about stigma. So let's hear what she had to say about just dealing with the stigma of epilepsy.
I think stigma can present differently across different cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Pakistan, some very common misconceptions that people with epilepsy face is that people think that it's contagious, or that people with epilepsy can't lead fulfilling lives. And there's also a very harmful belief, unfortunately, that epilepsy is caused by spiritual forces. It's caused by supernatural forces. And the thing that, because of these misconceptions, that people with epilepsy then struggle with is delayed medical treatment. People are not able to get timely diagnosis, get timely treatment. And for something like epilepsy, that's really, really important. So unfortunately, these are some very common misconceptions that people with epilepsy in Pakistan face. For myself, I would say that I luckily did not face the very typical, oh, it's caused by supernatural forces or it's contagious, fortunately. But I think my main stay, as you could see from what I told earlier, the main thing that I faced was medical stigma. And unfortunately, you'd think that in medical settings, you'd get a lot of support and a lot of understanding, but that unfortunately was not the case for me. The delay in diagnosis is actually a form of medical stigma, treatment, and it takes a toll on your trust in the system. So that is something that people with epilepsy commonly in Pakistan, unfortunately, they go through it. And then something else that I personally faced in my journey to epilepsy was navigating it as a young woman in Pakistan. It's layered. There's stigma around epilepsy, yes. But then, as a young woman in Pakistan, there's also gender expectations and silence around health and concerns about marriage and future stability. So, for many girls, for many young girls in Pakistan, diagnosis comes with restrictions, not support. And that's why advocacy is so personal for me, because it's about shifting how we see strength, what we consider normal.
What we consider normal. Wow, I was very blown away when I heard her story about her experience, and then I sat in on a lecture from the World Health Organization because I'm doing a lot of research on brain capital, brain health, and neurological diseases. And representatives shared from the World Health Organization about the stories. And Nina Mango said, in my community, because of my epilepsy, people believe that epilepsy was contagious, as Ameena just mentioned, and no one wanted to even hold my hand. Like, imagine being a child dealing with that. And then she also said, because of misconception, many children with epilepsy don't receive support and affection and miss out on human contact and human connection. And for those of you who study human development and child development, human connection is so important. It's so important for brain health, right? Infants need to be held and touched and played with and made eye contact. And it's called serve and return. They need information and data and energy to be served in return. And so if a child is going through epilepsy or living with epilepsy and not having that emotional and social and physical contact, that is actually harmful for their brain. And so keeping that in mind, and so this woman wrote, I can't see her name, Valentine. She wrote, as a child, I had seizures very often, and sometimes many in the same day. With access to test treatment and a neurologist, I was seizure-free by the age of 18. So some people do grow out of that situation. So that was huge for me to find out. Just hearing her story. The first step is awareness, and this is what I'm doing today. The second step is understanding your reaction to it. If you don't know what's going on, do your own research like I'm doing, get stories, hear podcasts, and if you know someone personally, and you're able to do that in a respectful way, let them share their experience with you. Walt Whitman said in a quote that I quote all the time, be curious, not judgmental. So before we judge right away or take ourselves from the situation or change the relationship, we want to be curious and do our own research and learn about different neurological diseases. Because don't forget, 1 in 3 people will be affected by this. So either you or someone will have a brain disorder, unless we get ahead of the wave and start educating people about what to do. As we call it, the 7 pillars of brain capital, right? Food, movement, social interaction, stress reduction, things along those lines. And we'll be going over that at a separate time. And we teach on that in the Institute as well. And so another thing that Ms. Ameena pointed out is the importance of connection, right? And how it affects relationships. And so here's what she had to say about that.
Connection is really important. And no matter how much you say that, oh, well, you can just do it all alone, and you can go through this journey all alone, that's not really true, right? In the back of your mind, it's always something that's going to be uh, a bother, and it really affects your self-esteem. At least it did for me. Which is why self-stigma is one of the I think more than stigma from the outside, I think self-stigma is really, really harmful. The biggest disservice that we can do to ourselves is not when somebody tells you that you're less than because of your epilepsy, it's when we believe it. And so it's easier to not talk about it and be included than to talk about it and be excluded, right? So that's why it's so important to educate our peers and our communities, and so important for our communities to hold space for people with epilepsy, because at the end of the day, your friend is still your friend despite their diagnosis. Your spouse is still your spouse despite their diagnosis. And people with epilepsy, with the right management, can lead very fulfilling lives.
So with that was huge, because she talked about something that I haven't heard people use this particular phrase, self-stigma. That is huge. That I heard someone say a different phrase when I was doing some studying. It's not always what other people are saying about you, it's what you're saying about yourself. What are you repeating to yourself? And so if people are dealing with a neurological disease, do they have the support system to make sure that their mental health, their identity health, how they see themselves, how they see their creative contributions? And that is why this is so important to talk, because my research is in creative thinking. Like, why are you talking about epilepsy or neurological diseases or things like that, or stigma around certain situations when you're focused on creative thinking? But we need to see the bridge. It's all connected to creative thinking, right? The way you see yourself is connected to your creative potential, connected to your creative contributions and your creative identity, right? And so that self-stigma was a huge term for me to write down and just really reflect upon, because we all have it with whatever we're dealing with. Do we have a stigma about something that we're going through? I know I shared with you that I have a speech impediment. I stuttered since as early as I can remember. And I had self-stigma around that. And that did affect my creative output and my creative contribution. So going with that. But with people who are living with epilepsy, what is the support system that we can give to make sure that they are seen, their stories are centered, they know that they're empowered, and they're able to contribute. They're able to know, and we're able to know their contributions are very, very important as well. And so another thing that I'm very mindful of is when we, and I talk about this in intercultural creativity, when we try to reach out to people with different lived experiences, right? To people with different demographics, whether it be ethnicity or just all the demographics on my diversity diamond, what does that look like? Do we understand that that sometimes we don't want to say certain things, or we don't even want to try to reach out and make connections because we're so afraid to say the wrong thing? Like, well, what if I say this and I offend the person by doing that? And so we don't do anything, and we don't make any type of connection. We don't even make an attempt because we don't want to fail and mess up and look and just do the wrong thing. And so I asked her, I'm not familiar with people who are living with epilepsy. I have one person in my life, but we don't, but we've spoken about it a little bit. It hasn't been really the center of our conversations. And now I can bring a few things up or see if she wanted to share her story. But I am always aware of, okay, well, what phrases do I use? What phrases don't I use? So I asked Miss Ameena, who seems very open, very kind, such a beautiful soul. And I just met her. I can tell she's a beautiful soul. And to say, hey, people want to know, like, what's the good phrases are the correct phrases and the kind phrases, compassionate phrases to use. And so we spoke about that. Any information on that, on what things we should stay away from or not the best phrases to use, and which phrases can we use to explain this?
Right. So thank you for bringing attention to this. Because in epilepsy advocacy, language is one of the most important things that we should focus on. You know, what we say is what we become. So language matters. And it's really important in regards to using the correct language, using terms that people with epilepsy prefer and that respect their lived experiences. It's to start with centering the voices of people with epilepsy. What do they prefer, right? In regards to phrases, context and culture matters a lot, right? So whatever, sometimes the terms that may be acceptable in English might not be acceptable in Urdu, let's say, which is my national language, right? But I think some across the board, some very basic language that you should, for example, stay away from. It's the word, for example, using the word epileptic. You should say person with epilepsy because it brings the focus back on the person and not the condition, right? It's very common actually in Urdu too, is people approach a person with epilepsy with pity, right? And the greatest gift that you can give a person with epilepsy is not pity, but understanding. So saying words and phrases like suffers from epilepsy, right? And I was just joking with my friend about it. I was like, I don't suffer from it. I just live with epilepsy. So using that term, I think that can perpetuate even more stigma. Using the term fit instead of a seizure, right? Even something like that can perpetuate stigma. So it's really important that we use the correct language, and that for that, if you don't know what the correct language is, you can know that by centering the voices of people with epilepsy, by involving them in discussions and talking about what respects their lived experiences. And a very amazing thing that IB has done and is currently working on, it's called the Lexicon Survey, which is the language. What is the appropriate language to use, right, for people with epilepsy? So there is amazing work being done.
There is amazing work being done, and I wanted to let you know about it. Once again, this is the lecture from the World Health Organization that I sat in on, and the speaker, talked about the earlier quotes from the people of bringing their stories to highlight. And now we are talking about when she closed her lecture, she said, a woman said, "I use my personal experience of stigma to advocate for the rights of the people living with epilepsy." And then she also shared, "Today, when I meet a child with epilepsy, the first thing I do is to hold their hand." The first thing I do is to hold their hand. So I wanted to share that. Here are some other stats about dementia, the cost of dementia, the risk factors that people can actually, attend to earlier in life to lower some of these things down for dementia and stroke as well. Some things like epilepsy, some people are born with it, and I don't know any other causes that have it for the onset. But some things like dementia, a certain percentage of that can be prevented. So knowing that as early in the lifespan as possible is so important, so important. So we are all about brain health because brain health affects our creative thinking. And so as we get ready to close, I just wanted to once again let you know that we are launching the Lyrics and Leadership Institute, and Keely and I will be on a different day talking about the launch, talking about the importance of this work. I just wanted to highlight May's Mental Health Awareness Month and highlight the stories of Miss Ameena, her work at Brain Bridge, and also the work at the International Bureau of Epilepsy that she was sharing, the IBE group, and let you know that we are ready for you. We're ready to start a community, to build a community of learners who want to learn about their brain health, learn about how to prevent dementia, learn about how to increase creative thinking at the same time, and do it with people who love the musicians that you love. I even have painting. So we're going to start with Prince, of course, bring in other musicians such as David Bowie, Lauryn Hill, Dolly Parton, even Bob Marley, and other great musicians who have great lyrics to strengthen this organ with. Check out our welcome video, and I'll be back after this. Get ready for a new way of learning, for a new way of leading.
The top leaders today, they know how to improvise, adapt, and have flexibility. With the influx of AI and machine learning, developing your people skills, emotional tools, and creativity is now top priority.
It is, and that's why we're so excited to be launching the one-of-a-kind Lyrics and Leadership Institute that uses the work, songs, and life lessons of famous artists to build your 21st century leadership skills.
And who should launch this initiative? No other than the genius of Prince.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life.
Hi, I'm Janine Letford, the co-founder and co-director of the Lyrics and Leadership Institute. And I'm also the inaugural winner of the Grammy Museum's Educating Through Music Award, the 2015 California Charter School Teacher of the Year, and the winner of the Los Angeles Music Center's Bravo Arts Award for using the arts to teach academic and life skills. So this is my jam.
And I'm Keely Kauki-Molde, the co-director of the Lyrics and Leadership Institute. I'm an international dancer, choreographer, actress, and producer. I've worked with artists such as Justin Bieber, Snoop Dogg, and Janet Jackson, and I've appeared on Dancing with the Stars, So You Think You Can Dance, and I was on Legally Blonde, just to name a few.
You've been busy.
Yes.
So because of our extensive background in brain-based teaching and interactive corporate training, we understand the needs of the workforce to equip people like yourself with the top 21st century leadership skills, such as
Creativity,
curiosity,
adaptability,
emotional intelligence,
growth mindset,
self-awareness,
and resilience.
But the normal lecture style training, the boring voiceover PowerPoints, they're just not cutting it.
Yeah, they're just not working. And that's why we've created these fun arts-based interactive courses. So you can learn these vital skills in a deeper, more meaningful way.
From artists you already know and love.
We have some of the nation's top teachers, facilitators, and artists here for you. And it's for everybody. It's not just for corporations and universities. Everyone is welcome.
Everyone. And in response to the loneliness epidemic and the need for connection, we're also building a community of people who love the featured artists, such as Prince. And they also love to learn, to grow, and become more creatively successful.
So how are we doing this?
Good question. I'm glad you asked. We have online courses, arts-infused conferences, and a network of communities for lifelong learning, growth, and brain health.
And all of this is driven by the work of famous artists
Like
Prince. We're introducing this unique program with a free course,
which teaches leadership skills from Prince's Super Bowl halftime show.
So join our mailing list to be a part of our very first Lyrics and Leadership community. Let's get ready to learn, grow, and go crazy.
We'll see you in class. So there you have it. We're so excited to be launching that today. So there is, we are opening our institute and building our community. It is going to be amazing. As you said, we have opportunities for interactive learning. Love it, love it, love it. A lot of arts infused learning into how do I think more creatively in non-arts areas by using the arts. And of course, a lot of brain health learning, everything that affects this beautiful organ in you, keeps it cognitively flexible, strong, and pushing away dementia, memory loss, things along those lines. And so coming together and supporting one another and building a community. Our 7 areas of the Institute are the song courses. We take a song, like the first song is Baby, I'm a Star, but we look at it, you dive through it, you just get bathed in the song, and then we go through the leadership, the new research coming out and combining that to the song lyrics. And so we have that there. And we add a new song per month for you just to dive through and to learn through and to grow through. We have our Gems of Geniuses, where we have just micro learning opportunities. You just want to get on the app and just go through and just learn a quick lesson that you can implement right away. So like Prince's Pearls of Wisdom or Dolly Parton's Diamonds, just every artist kind of has just a gem or a wisdom point just to throw at you on a Tuesday at 10 for you just to think better about your life. We have our Brain Capital Jewels. And so that is our 7 pillars of building brain capital. So we look at the artists' lives and show you different examples of how they are building their brain capital or built their brain capital if they're no longer with us. And then give you implementable, actionable items to do in your life. So even things like food or reducing stress, or what is some of the actions or the lyrics that they're doing that builds brain capital at the same time. And so in the Brain Capital Jewels, we have brain moves, brain foods, brain mental stimulation, brain peace or stress reduction, brain sleep and rest, what that looks like, and brain arts expression as well. And then we have our Sing-Along Sundays, right? This is another department in the Institute where we understand the research says people who come together to sing together, what that does for brain stimulation. And so making sure that we get together and we sing along, right? Over the internet, we might have some in person when we do our conference concerts. And that's something that's been on my heart. I would love to do. I've been to a lot of conferences. I'm an educator by trade. So I've been to a lot of teacher ed conferences on now in healthcare and in a beauty conference. I did a keynote because now I keynote. So now I go to a lot of conferences that are in different areas. But I said, wouldn't it be great to have a conference that is also a concert at the same time? And so you have music infused, you have dancing infused, you even have visual art, painting, live paintings. We have a wonderful live painter on our team, Miss Ameena. Hi, Ameena. And other artists and just great, our co-director, Keely, she's one of the top choreographers. So how do we bring in all the arts while we're learning about leadership, while we're learning about emotional regulation and all the top leadership skills? So how do we merge and meld those two together? Then and then our last segment is our Artist Friends Meetup. For those of you who love Prince, why don't we get together and talk about the music and how it affects us and what we saw and what our revelations were? And there's people who their cars are purple, their house is purple, they have tattoos of the symbol. There's people who love Dolly Parton. There's people who love Lauryn Hill. Why don't we get together and talk about it? We know that loneliness is an issue, and loneliness actually hurts the brain. It hurts the brain. Our brains are not meant to be isolated and secluded. Our brains are meant to come together. So with that, we're like, okay, well, how do we be a solution to the loneliness epidemic and the numbers that are rising? And we believe this is one way to do it. Bring people together that love the artist. That's the familiarity pull in. And then why don't we just connect and share and help each other grow? And so that is the Institute. We are growing it. It is, trust me, I believe it is my life's mission is going to be huge because we need to learn, we need to grow, we need to figure out how this organ works so it does not start declining in our 40s and 50s, but it's this top brain organ all the way to our 90s and into our 100s. And in order to do that, we have to start doing things now. So I hope you will check it out. I believe that is it. Oh, our last department in the Institute is called the Artist, Class of Arts and Poetry. And what we are figuring out is that people who have an arts background, their brains are actually, laid out differently. A trained neuroscientist can look at a brain and can't tell if it's if the person was a construction worker or worked at the postal office or was a surgeon or a teacher. But a trained neuroscientist can look at a brain and tell if it was a musician, if the person was a musician. That is huge. So that means that certain parts of the brain are built differently when you have music um, inserted into the lifespan. And following the work of Dr. Nina Kraus, Dr. Annie Patel, and Dr. Charles Lim, and a slew of other neuroscientists like Dr. Daniel Levitin are talking about the importance of the arts. They focus mostly on music, but importance of the arts. And so what we are saying, the Institute and Keely and I and the other educators are saying that music should be an integral part of the lived experience at every point of the lifespan. That is key. And so with that, there's a lot of you out there who are like, well, I never learned how to play an instrument. And I don't know what music entail, like pitch, tempo, rhythm, texture, what? I don't know dance, right? Or movement. I don't understand. I've never taken a painting class or a pottery class. It's like, I just didn't think it was important, or it wasn't offered to me. I didn't have the resources available. And so what we're saying is the brain actually gets optimized, we believe, and we are presenting the research on, when you have an artist part of your life there. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to do it in front of people, but it should be a part, just like reading, right? We can actually, trained neuroscientists can tell the difference between a brain who has learned how to read and a brain that has not learned how to read. There's actually a physical difference in the brain. So the same is for music. We're also looking at the cerebellum. What happens when we get up and dance to a song from Prince before we dive into the lyrics and get mentally stimulated from doing the metaphorical or the symbolic deep dive into what we believe he was trying to say, or what we think we can pull from it as far as a leadership lesson. But let's just dance to the music, because we activate our cerebellum, which helps monitor our prefrontal cortex. So it's all connected there, but it's our job, Keely and I, to bring all the connections together and to make sure that we are empowering you with what you need to stay cognitively fit, physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, and artistically fit in order to have a flourishing life and a life well lived. So that is the Institute. Check out Lyrics in Leadership. And I don't have that up as far as a banner. I was not prepared for that, so sorry. But check out Lyrics and then the letter N, Leadership. And you can learn about it. The tuition is accessible. It's only $19.99 a month when you do the full year, or $25.5 a month. It costs more to go to McDonald's with your family than it does to get top training. And I go all over the country and even into international waters to do this teaching. So I will be teaching you, and our staff will be coming to you, teaching you for only $25 a month or $19.99. I chose that because of the song. If you do the year. And so this is it. This is where we're going to have to go. We don't have a choice. We have to be lifelong learners. So why not make it fun? And why not do it together and create a community who loves to learn, grow, and go crazy in a good way. We will see you next time. Thank you for joining us, and stay in contact. We're always sharing the top information on brain health, brain capital, artistic health, and just learning to love. So we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling themselves now. And we will see you there. Have a wonderful day. Shine bright. Go get some early morning sunlight. Go get some exercise. Think well and create well for all of us. Take